Monday, the what are we? The 11th. It's Dalid, other Aleph, and we're starting Likutei Sichot. Other base. We're starting Likutei Sichot, and we start with volume 27. Even though we said we would start with 22, but there was a little bit of Hashgacha Pratis yesterday. That 27 came up. Yesterday, Mark and I were talking about whether when a person says something, whether it helps if after you say you're going to do something, you say Bli Neder. So this won't exactly solve the problem. It'll solve it a little bit. But the first Sikha here is about Nedarim. So it was like almost like a sign to learn this one. And it's a beautiful Sikha. V'chot ma'aseh korbanot. So Rambam divides his book into halachos, different halachos. It's divided into books. There's 14 books and 83 halachos. Halachos is like a general title for a section. There's 83 sections. And it's well known that this 83 is the value of machala. Rambam was a doctor, so he wrote the Mishnah Torah with the segula that whoever learns it. That's one of the reasons why the Rebbe wanted people to learn Rambam every day. It's Kol HaMachala Shel Samti BeMitzrayim Lo Asim Alecha, and he wrote it mostly when he was in Egypt. So it was a very strong connection. In any case, Chod Ma'aseh HaKorbanot is in Sefer Avodah, in the book of service. In service, whenever we say service, we mean the temple. So Ma'aseh HaKorbanot means how the offerings were executed, how they were done. So there it says, Hanoder Gadol V'Ivi Katan, a person who made a neder, meaning he made a commitment on himself. A neder is that I commit myself, as opposed to a vow, which is that I. So Hanoder Gadol V'Ivi Katan Lo Yatsa. Promise?
I think so. Undertaking.
Sorry, the neder is on the behema itself, not on the person. So Hanoder Gadol Ve'Ivi Katan Lo Yatsa. So he said I'll bring an older animal, and he brought a younger animal. So he's not Yotze. He didn't execute what he said. Katan Ve'Ivi Gadol Yatsa. But if he said I'll bring a young one, and he brought an older one, he is Yotze.
Because it's of more value?
Ketzad, for instance. Amar Arei Alai Ola. He said, so it is on me. Okay. I have taken by myself to bring what we call a burnt offering. Ola means that it's completely burnt. Oshlamim, or something that's half on the mizbeach, half goes to the altar, and half is eaten. Keves, and he said, I'm going to bring a keves. Keves is until a year old. I think keves is until 2 years old. So he said, I'll bring something that's up to 2 years old. Ve'evi ayil, and he brought an older sheep, which is from 2 years and on. If I'm not mistaken.
How do you call an older sheep?
Ayil.
Ayil.
O shenadar egel, or he said, I'll bring a calf, and he brought an ox. Ve'evi Gdi, he said, I'll bring a kid goat. Ve'evi seir. Seir is also, it's an older goat. It's called seir because they have a lot of hair going off their body. And then yatsa. So those are examples of when the person is yotze. Amakol divrei Rambam, says the Rebbe, that the source for what the Rambam is saying is, as the Kesef Mishnah brings, is divrei Mishnah b'Masechet Menachot. At the end of Menachos, Kuf Zayin Amud Beis, Hanoder Gadol Ve'Ivi Katan Lo Yatsa. Everybody agrees, says the Mishnah, that one who brings an older, meaning that he promised to bring an older one, and he brought a younger one, is not Yotze. He didn't perform what he said. Katan Ve'Ivi Gadol, but if he promised to bring a young one and brought an older one, Kan Kayemet Machloket Lefidat Rabbanan. Here there is a dispute, two different opinions. According to Chazal, meaning the sages, the majority of the sages in that generation, Yatsa, he performed what he said. But according to Rebbe, he didn't. And usually you follow the majority opinion. So the majority opinion is that he was Yotze. So that's how the Rambam writes. And he brings all the examples again of bringing something, saying something young and bringing something older. Rambam etzayin dugmot. The Rambam brought us 3 examples: keves v'vi'ayil, eged v'visho, gdi v'visayir, right, from the younger to the older. כי פסקו של הרמב"ם שקטן והביא גדול יצא אמור רק כאשר מדובר על אותו מין. So he says, why did the Rambam have to give us examples? We know what it means to bring a younger animal, to say I'm bringing a younger animal, and to actually bring an older. It's not so difficult. You look at how old they are. Everybody can tell. So why does he bring these examples? Because he follows the principle, the Rambam, that they have to be from the same species. So you can't say, I'll bring a young calf and bring an older sheep. It has to be an older calf, meaning an ox. ולא בשני מינים שונים. כפי שהוא מדגיש במפורש בהמשך הפרק. And he says this explicitly later in the chapter. דרוש הסבר, so says the Rebbe, we need an explanation. כיצד יוצאים ידי חובה בעיל, כאשר נדר הרי עלי עולה ושלמים כבש? Still, even if it's in the same species, how can you say that somebody did what they said they would do if they explicitly said, I'm going to bring a young sheep?
One thing and not the other.
Okay. He said a kevis, and he brings an ayil. How does that work? He said explicitly, I want to bring a 2-year-old sheep. And suddenly he brings a 3-year-old sheep.
They must ascribe a higher value to the older sheep.
And the more important thing is that in Hebrew they have 2 different names. If they don't have 2 different names,
right, then
Melech. But one of the biggest principles in Torah is that we follow the language. Meaning, if you're a taxonomist or a pharmacologist, however you learn, you study things by their function or by their substance. Meaning, you take it apart in some way, or you look at how it acts. But in Yiddishkeit, in Torah, especially in Halacha, especially when it comes to animals, speciation or division between different types is based on language, just as much as it's based on substance and function, or form and function, which is all kind of different ways of doing it. But it's a very important thing. If in Hebrew there's 2 different words, keves and ayil, so if a person says, I'm going to bring a keves, a 2-year-old sheep, you didn't do what he said. And it says, where do we learn the whole idea of a neder from? Of like you said, a promise. That I promise to do something. Where do we learn this from? We learn from a pasuk in Parashat Vayikra. And there it says, Motzas fatecha tishmo, ve'asita kasher nadarta. You shall keep the outcome of your lips, meaning what came out of your lips, and you shall do as you promised. That's the pasuk. That's the main pasuk about nedarim. V'chevan shenadar katan, and since he said, I'm going to bring a small one, a kevis, a young one, alav lekayem et nidro. He has to do what he said he would do. V'asita kasher nadarta. You should do as you promised. Kasher mevi gadol, and when he brings a big one, kegon ayil bimkom kevis harei lo kiyam kasher nadarta. He doesn't do what he promised to do. So how can you say that he's yotzei? Okay, that's the first question. There's 2 ways to explain this. Aleph mitzad hagavra nuder. First of all, meaning we're going to do a chiluk that's like a Reb Chaim chiluk. There's going to be a gavra and a chefza from the point of view of the person making the promise, and from the point of view of the object that he's bringing. From the person and from the object, or from the subject and the object. So from the subject, mitzad hagavra, from the person who promised, הנודר, כאשר האדם נודר להביא קטן, סביר לומר שכוונתו לא הייתה שיביא דווקא קטן ולא גדול, אלא שלא יביא פחות מכך. He says you can also understand that when you say small or young, you're also talking about not the name, but rather the amount. Okay? That's why in Hebrew, when you say, it's very interesting, in Hebrew you say small and big, it's really synonymous with saying young and old. הגדול והקטן. התחיל בגדול וקילה בקטן. He started with the young one and he ended with the old one. He says, says the pasuk in Shmuel. So in Hebrew, there's such a thing that small and big literally mean they're synonymous, completely synonymous with small in the sense of quantity and big in the small in the sense of age and big in the sense of age. So because of that, it makes some sense to say that when the person said, I'll bring a small one, a kevis, he wasn't talking about the specific age of the animal. He was talking about the amount that it cost, how much it was worth, because of the amount of animal there is there. So the young one is always smaller. And what he meant to say is, I'm not going to give anything less, I'm not going to bring anything less than a 2-year-old. It's not exactly what he said. He's saying here that, it's like saying that at the least I'll bring a 2-year-old. Okay. So it says here in 10, he quotes the most famous. There was a person who saved the Rasag from oblivion, or at least from shichacha, from not being known. The Rasag, Rav Sadia Gaon, he wrote a book on the mitzvos, and it wasn't really a book. He wrote it as a poem, but he was the first one to enumerate the 613 commandments, and it's called the Azarot La Rasag. And it wasn't used very much because it's a poem. What do you do with poetry? You never know if with poetry you should take things literally or not literally. There's a big chacham, his name was Ari Perla, and he wrote a 3 huge volume commentary on the Azarot. The Azarot are nothing, they're like a poem. So each mitzvah is a line. And then there's 18 pages of what he takes out of that line. So this became a classic of learning, this book. It's even not called the Rasag, it's called the Riperla, because of what he did to it. And he discusses every mitzvah in length, whether it's enumerated by others, whether it counts as one, doesn't count as one. So here he says that. So you see, this is not exactly part of the mitzvah, but it says this is what the Riperla brings. First of all, that it means lefachot, that it means at least. At least I'm going to bring one that's 2 years old. So when he brings a big one, because he actually meant at least, because of that, it counts and he's yotze.
Again, it all goes down to value, perceived value.
Okay, in the end, or size. But I mean at least is. The main point here is
size must be translated into value.
Okay. We'll see in a moment that we'll say something like this. But here we're talking about the stress here is what did the person mean? We're trying to get into his head. Everything has to do with Nadarim, we're trying to get into the person's head.
This is to satisfy like a din Torah, right?
Okay. But now, like you just said, in terms of value of the object itself, mitzad ha'chefza, from the point of view of the object, so the person who made the promise, he really meant a small one. He really meant a young sheep. There's a principle. Rashi brings in Menachos there to explain why Chazal say that he's Yotzei. He says this principle, yesh bichlal merubeh me'at. In the greater is included the lesser. So whenever I say something, if I bring something greater, I already fulfilled the lesser. This is similar to the principle yesh bichlal matayim maneh, that if a person loans somebody 200, it means that he at least loaned him 100. So
backward compliant.
Okay. So when he brings an older animal, ayil bimkom keves v'chadome, a 3-year-old instead of a 2-year-old, nichlal b'chach gam katan. So included in this is also the younger. Ela shu mosif al nidro, except that he added and he brought more than what he promised that he would bring. So instead of bringing something that's 2 years old, he brought something that's 3 years old. It's actually worth more. So this is from the point of view of value, similar very much to value. Bichlal merubeh me'at. It's like saying that you can't be a 3-year-old sheep if you weren't a 2-year-old sheep. Okay? So if I brought a 3-year-old sheep, I also brought a 2-year-old sheep, except that it's hidden somewhere inside. the 2-year-old. Okay. B'ram en dai b'gav. It says the Rebbe, this is not enough. Why? Kein machloket zo mufia lifneichen b'mishnah legabei menachot. So this is a very interesting question. In menachos, a mincha is flour offering.
Pancake.
It's a pancake, basically. So now you have to make it out of a certain amount of flour. But the vessel in the temple was of a certain size. Shishim sa is what would fit inside. I don't remember how to say it, but it's a pretty big vessel. Okay. So now somebody says, shishim esolim. Ve'ni yodea kama pirashti. Somebody says, I made a promise to bring a flour offering, but I don't remember how big I said it would be. I don't remember out of how many esonim, how many tenths of a sa'ah I would make it out of.
It wasn't standard?
No, it's not standard. You can make it as big as you want. So stam, a flour offering, is 60 esonim. So says the Mishnah, Yavi shishim esonim. He should bring 60. Bring the maximum. Okay, makes sense.
That's the maximum? Or
That's the maximum. That's the standard.
Standard.
And it's the maximum that fits inside a vessel. The vessels were made to hold shishim esonim.
So you can bring multiples.
Right, you can bring many of them. Okay. Rebbe Omer, Rebbe knows math. So he says something incredible. That's why I love this Gemara, because it's one of the few places in Shas that they do a triangular number. So this is what Rebbe says. He should bring all the possibilities from 1 to 60, because he says certainly he didn't mean less than 60, because that's the standard, but we don't know whether he said something less. If he said something less, he has to do exactly what he said. So I said from 1 to 60.
Oh, wow.
So now I have to bring all of them. How many does he bring total? How many aslonim does he bring total? So that's a triangular number. It's a sum of integers from 1 to 60. So it's called a triangular number.
Big number.
It's not so big. So how do you calculate it? You do n times n plus 1 divided by 2. So how much is this? It's 60 times 61 divided by 2. If you want to do it quickly, so you divide by 2 first. So you get 30 times 61. How much is 30 times 61? 30 times 60. 30 times 60 is 1,800.
1,800.
And one more 30. So it's 1,830. That's what he needs to bring. So he brings all together 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 all the way to, and it's fun to see the Gemara around this, the commentaries around this, different methods that they had. This is a famous story about Gauss. That Gauss figured this out when he was in 4th grade. How do you add all the numbers from 1 to 100? And so what did he see? He saw, he derived the algebraic formula without knowing the algebraic formula. He derived it geometrically. Meaning, what did he see? He saw that if I need to add all the numbers from 1 to 100, so if I add 1 and 100, that's 101. 2 and 99 is also 101. 3 and 98 is also 101. How many of these do I have? 50. So it's 50 times 101. That's how we... Okay? Basically, what you're doing is you're building a rectangle that's 101 by 50. And so he solved it in a few minutes. And the teacher gave them this problem so that they would keep quiet for whatever. So he went out, and the teacher yelled at him, "Why'd you go? Why didn't you finish my addition problem?" He said, "It's not an addition problem, it's a multiplication problem." So, in any case. So...
It's a chinuch problem.
and the teacher has a chinuch problem. So betam lemachloket zu muva'ot b'Gemara mispar dot. So why does Rebbe not agree with Chachamim that he can just bring the 60? Why does he force him to bring all the different possibilities from 1 to 60? So there's a number of opinions why. The Vasof Muved Dat Ravashi, the final opinion there is Ravashi. Bekatan vehivi gadol kamiflege. It's exactly the same thing. Okay? What happens if really he said a small number and then he brought a big one? He said 2 and he brought 58. He said 2 and he brought what? sorry. He said 2 and he's bringing 60 now. So 60 doesn't include the 2. That's what Rav Ashi says. It doesn't. Because he said to bring 2. He didn't say to bring 60. Right? The first opinion is that it's enough for him to bring just a 60. The usual flour offering. It says Rav Ashi, it doesn't include the 2. So this goes against the principle that we tried to use before, that the older animal also includes the younger animal.
How can 60 not include 2?
Because it's not 2. It's not the same thing.
It's a multiple of 2.
Katan v'vigadol. He says this is the machlokas, whether it includes the 2 or not. The same way that we had before. Remember, in the Mishnah, the first Mishnah, we also had the same machlokas. Okay? Whether it's 2, whether the older animal. Not everybody agreed that the older animal, Rebbe.
The older animal was a different name. We had to overcome that issue. Here, it's a number. It's a physical number. It's for sure included in the 60.
So let's see. Rabbanan Savre, so the majority opinion holds Katan Vivi Gadol Yatsa, that if you said 2 and you brought 60, you're Yotzei. V'ze'ina milo nadar le-3 esronot amaitei 5 lenidro Yatsa. Meaning, that's why I said the 58 before, that even if you brought a 5, not the 60, not the regular, but he just brought 5, but he's not sure. Now he's not sure what he brought. I know it's a number between 1 and 5. I just don't remember which one. So it says 5 also, meaning it's not only because the 60 is the standard. It's because 5 includes 2. כלומר, אף אם נדר 3 בלבד והביא 5 קיים נדרו, ורבי סובר לא יצא. So the Gemara continues to explain this. והאיפלגו באחד הזמני. We already had this machlokas. If Rav Ashi is correct, then it's the same machlokas. It's the same dispute that we had regarding the animal and its age. That I said, I'll bring a young one, and he brings an older one. It's the same chachamim also. It's Rebbe and the majority opinion. ממשיכה הגמרא ואומרת, ויפלגו באחד הזמני. דתנן קטן והביא גדול יצא, רבי אומר לא יצא. So that's the Mishnah that we started with. ומשכבה הגמרא צריכה. So why do we need to bring 2 Mishnayos with the same dispute? The whole principle of Torah is bring me the principles.
Precedent.
I need one precedent to know that they dispute on this point. I don't need you to bring me 2 cases for me to know. So there must be a reason why you brought me the second one. בהכה אמרי רבנן משום דאידי ואידי קומצו. היינו אומרים שכאן סוברים רבנן כך, משום שבין מרחק ובין מרחק קטנה מקריבים קומץ אחד. So he says, what's the ikar? What's the main thing the flour offering? The main thing of the flour offering is the little bit that's taken off the top, and that's tossed on the mizbeach. So it's done. You know how to do a kmitza, no? So you take your 2 middle fingers, and you fill it up like this, okay? And this is what's thrown on the mizbeach. And it doesn't matter whether there's a small amount in the vessel, or there's a large amount. The kmitza is done exactly the same way. So the part that's an offering is always exactly the same. Exactly. It doesn't make a difference how much flour went into it.
Okay, we can't shortchange the Kohanim.
It's not going to get to the Kohen.
The rest of it goes to the Kohanim.
Or to the person.
Right. Depending
on which kind of offering it is. But what he's saying is this is different than the animal. By the animal, you understand that it's a different size. What goes on the mizbeach, what goes on the altar in the end, the parts of the animal that go on, or if it's the entire animal that's burnt, between a 2-year-old and a 3-year-old, there's a huge difference. But here, there's no difference, because in the end, you're bringing exactly the same. So it says, even in this case, where there's no difference about what goes on the altar, Rebbe still disputes. And he still says you didn't do it. You didn't do what you said you would do. But there, where you have many parts, you have the same parts of the animal. They're larger, they're bigger. So there they would have agreed with Rebbe, who says en bichlal gadol katan, because if I said I would bring a younger one, and it should turn out the opposite. Okay. So still, they say when he said, "I will bring a 2-year-old," he meant a certain amount of organs or a certain size, not amount, but a certain size, certain weight of the organs that would be placed on the altar.
For the actual offering.
And when he brings the larger one, it's a completely different offering on the altar. The part that goes on the altar is much greater.
Right.
So he didn't shortchange the altar, but he didn't do what he said he would do. As far as the animal is concerned, it's different. Okay, it's a different amount of organs that go on the animal.
It's small.
Because it's greater. It doesn't matter whether it's smaller or greater. But in this case, he's not doing what he said. It's not about shortchanging or not. It's that I meant that the amount that's included, the internal organs that are included in a small animal would go on the altar. And when you bring a big animal, it's a completely different amount. It's completely different weight of internal organs that goes on the altar. So it doesn't matter that I didn't shortchange the altar. The altar doesn't do what but I didn't do what I said I would do.
Mm-hmm.
But so there it's not such a big chiddush that they have a dispute. But here you would think, he says in the beginning, you would think it's the same. Rebbe shouldn't argue with him, because in the end, exactly the same amount goes on the altar. So whatever you meant as the offering is what goes on the altar. So that was done. So it is a chiddush to bring these two different examples. Okay, so I think we're going to end here and continue tomorrow.